everyone, and welcome. My name is Stephen Goldberg of Optimus Performance, bringing you practical ideas on leadership, team development, and employee performance in the workplace. And as you can see, I have a special guest with me, Charles D. McCarrick. Did I say that right, Charles?
You did get that right, but Stephen, please feel free to call me Charlie.
Charlie, okay. So we have Charlie with us. And I met Charlie, actually, we connected on LinkedIn and discovered that he had written a book called Lessons My Brothers Taught Me: How to Transform Your Personal Qualities into a Successful Business. I thought it quite interesting and decided to invite Charlie to be a guest on this show, and he accepted, and here we are today. So I'm just going to read the blurb that's on Amazon about the book, and then we can get into Charles's story and advice, which I think could benefit a lot of entrepreneurs. So welcome again, Charles.
Thank you, Stephen. Pleasure to be here.
Good. So many people ask for advice on how to start a business, but rarely how to succeed in business. Charles McCarrick, founder of MicroAnt, suggests starting with the question, why do you want to go into business? Great question. These chapters, childhood stories, and cartoons describe the journey of employing the toolbox of traits that make Charles who he is, and in turn, built his entrepreneurial success. Woven with life lessons full of turkeys and toilets, Charles shares his 4S process, that's a 4S process to create business success with the fuel of your character. If you are determined to run your own business despite lacking any previous experience, this book is for you. You'll discover that you already possess the pieces to build your own success. So that's great. I think there's a lot of people that think about going into business, professionals, and don't know how to do it, or those that are in business are struggling and don't know how to succeed. So I'm really happy we can cover some of these topics, because starting your own business and making it a success is very challenging. So maybe, Charles, describe how long you've been in business. How many were you when you started, and how many people are you today working in the business?
Okay, I actually started the business roughly 20 years ago this month, and the business consisted of me alone in my basement with two dogs, but they weren't really employees, and they weren't participating much in the operations. But I mean, that's how it started. And I was doing a little consulting and contracting work in the beginning. And some of the customers wanted products. They wanted me to do a little bit of manufacturing. So I started bringing on other employees and started building up a business from that. You know, Stephen, the reason I make the point in on the book cover that many people ask me for my advice in starting a business as opposed to how to succeed in a business, because it surprises me how many people talk about going into business and actually start a business and thinking that just starting it evolves from there, meaning they have absolutely no strategy, they have no plan forward, and they're not thinking beyond getting the thing going and bringing in revenue. And so that's why I want people to pause and think and say, well, what's going to sustain you? What is your plan? What is your strategy? And the reason I bring that up is I completely lacked any of that. It took me years to finally come around to realize that it's one thing to have an objective, and it's another thing to have tactics. But if you don't have a strategy connecting the two, what you've got is a job. It's not a business at all. And so I would say it was actually several years before I actually evolved from a few people working in the basement having jobs to being an actual business, an actual company. And that took about 3 or 4 years, and then we moved out of the basement, and the company continued to grow as we gained a larger reputation in the industry. And then the manufacturing took over, and now we do not consult or contract at all. It's all about selling products. Our products are custom, and they are custom antennas. And microant stands for microwave antennas. Microwave is the frequency spectrum that we work in, and antennas, of course, is something that you have to have in every wireless link on the transmit side and on the receive side. And so we're there to provide that for you. We're up to about 50 employees right now. And we've had, in our heyday, we've had close to 70 to 100, but that depends on production, how much production we have going. And of late, we have done a lot less of the high volume, low margin production, and now we are doing a much smaller quantity, but high return type of production. So that necessitates having fewer people. So that's why the downsizing, and we're comfortably at about 50 employees right now.
Yeah, so I imagine that on the high production end, you're competing with offshore companies, and it becomes more of a commodity, but on the smaller scale, you're providing more customized work. Am I right in assuming that?
What a good point. If it's a commodity, we won't touch it. If anybody can provide what we're providing, we won't take on the job. In fact, if I know of another product that's already out there, or somebody else that can do it as well, or even cheaper than us, I'll just point the customer to them. Our value to the customer is being able to provide something that's very difficult, that we will manufacture a 100% test that gives them a competitive edge over their competition. If it's anything close to a commodity, or if it can be manufactured in say overseas, we're not going to go after it. So we do all our manufacturing right here in Jacksonville, Florida, custom products, as I said, and oddities, not commodities.
Good. Now, tell us about the name of the book. Obviously, it's a book about business and helping people, entrepreneurs, succeed based on your journey towards success. Tell us about the choice of the title "Lessons My Brothers Taught Me," which is your bold. Show us the book too. Let's see what the cover looks like.
Here is the book.
Yeah.
And as you were saying, lessons my brothers taught me. And down here in the red, it says how to transform your personal qualities into a successful business. The book was written during the beginning of the 2019 COVID epidemic, when all non-essential employees were required to work remotely, not in the office. To be non-essential meant you did not put your hand on the product. You weren't part of the manufacturing machine. That included me. So while I was working at home and remotely, I found myself with a lot of time in my hands, and I was doing a lot of sewing because it's one of my hobbies, and I was sewing duffel bags. And I was making more and more bags, and I said, when I get to 100 bags, I'm going to do something else. And so I got to 100 bags, and I said, all right, time to do something else. And I was remarking to myself just how successful the business had been, and all these other companies were scrambling to get this payment protection program, and and we didn't need it. Our business was continuing to grow. We weren't going to, borrow money from take money from the government in writing down essentially all of the events that took place to the success for myself, so that I could understand it better. And as I wrote all these thoughts down, I realized it was slowly but surely becoming a manuscript with chapters and all of that. And I said, this is turning into a book. And there was a central theme to it all. I realized that we had gotten ourselves into many, many problems, some that you would say, how foolish could you possibly have been? But the thing is, we managed to get out of them as well. And it wasn't through savvy business acumen. It was simply by breaking the problem down into the human components of it, looking at the characters that we were dealing with on one end of the transaction and the characters on the other. And what we realized, the thing that always brought us through was when we had, when any people are practicing good character, good traits, integrity, and having the wherewithal and being honest and all these things, you invariably have a really good transaction taking place. When people are not practicing those things, that's when you get into trouble. And so you always have to find, well, what went wrong? Was it on our side? Was it on their side? What combination of things? How were expectations not met? And that what drove me down to the point that it's all about character. You go in with, you go into every one of these transactions having an understanding beyond the specifications, beyond the requirements, but that there is a need that needs to be met and that you are going to make that need a success. And that's all about character. And I brought down the various character traits that I saw in myself and in the various people that I was dealing with. And I said, well, where does character come from? And character comes from times of adversity, right? You're in some challenge or some situation, and at the end of it all, you say, oh, that was awful. You say, well, the world's a terrible place. This is what happens. Or you could say, well, this is an opportunity to learn something. The next time something like that comes around, I am going to act this way, or I'm going to do that. And essentially, character is built in times of adversity. Well, growing up with four brothers, it was a constant opportunity for adversity because I was next to the youngest, and I said lessons my brothers taught me. They weren't interested in teaching me lessons. They were more interested in entertaining themselves by creating these various hijinks and experiments and other things that I would find myself caught in the middle of. Now, those are the times of adversity, and those were opportunities to grow and build character. And what I came to realize is many of the so-called lessons that I experienced my brothers, they weren't a lot different from the lessons that I experienced in working with vendors, customers, or partners in the industry. For example, the older brothers, they tend to have their own set of rules. There is no fairness to it, right? You go in and there's going to be an outcome that they are going to, drive, and you're kind of subject to it. You call it bullying if you like, but that's just older brothers being older brothers. Well, there are many companies, big companies, that will do that and do that gladly. And we had many companies, large, not so much the small ones, many large companies just outright steal our intellectual property, patent it, manufacture it, otherwise exploit it, not compensate from it. Just outright steal from us. I said, well, this isn't fair. There's supposed to be patent laws, but no, that isn't what's going to protect you. What's going to protect you is your own character and your ability to recognize the character in others. And this is where the 4 S's come in. S number 1, sellability. That means the ability to sell yourself. These are the characteristics, attributes that you emote to the world that make people want to transact with you. They see that you're intelligent. They see that you are positive-minded, you are highly motivated, you are committed to their satisfaction, you have integrity, you have interest. Those are the things that people want in terms of a partner that they're dealing with. S number 2, sensibility. Now, sensibility is your awareness of what's taking place in the world. Yes, you have to know what you need to do to make your product valuable, how to be competitive. But aside from the product, it's what I was just talking about with these big companies taking advantage of you. You need to be aware of the characters that you're dealing with. And there's, I'm not saying they're all there to take advantage of you, but all it takes is one. And a contract and non-disclosure agreement, forget it. I mean, unless you have the wherewithal to really take those things to court, you are really relying on your ability to know who you're dealing with and to craft the deal in such a way that you are able to have success. And maybe You just need to stay clear of those people. So those two character traits, salability and sensibility, those relate to the characters of the individuals involved in the transaction. The other two, S's, these are character traits that are related to the company itself. They are sustainability and scalability. Sustainability means that the company is able to operate independent of any one particular individual, of any one particular capital asset. It means you have overlap. It means it's not a job. It is a sustainable enterprise that has a strategy that connects the objective to the tactics. It means you have processes in place. It means that you have products and workflow processes taking place that anyone can come in with reasonable skill and be able to keep things in motion. Scalability means the ability to grow. Now, we have to understand what growth means. Does growth means makes more money? Yeah, maybe. Larger operation, sell more products. Those are surely metrics that shows that you have scaled in terms of quantity, but a true scalable operations is able to increase quantity, but never, ever be able to compromise on quality. That means the product, no matter how many they make, whether it's a service or something that you deliver, it is exactly the same. It meets all of the expectations of the original product that was given. It doesn't mean that you source cheaper materials that are inferior, or that you find other ways to cut corners, or to make a larger bottom line, or to bring in people that do not have the qualifications that the original staff had. It means doing exactly what you're doing, and if anything, doing more of it, but doing it better. So those are the so-called 4 S's: the salability, and of course the sensibility, then sustainability and scalability. Those are the character traits that I discovered when reading through my own manuscript. And I pulled them together, and that's essentially what the book is about. And it relates the relationships I had with my brothers, the characters that I derived from the lessons that they taught me, and the specific character traits pertaining to me and as an individual, and to the business as an enterprise that led to my ultimate success.
Excellent. I like that 4 S's. So I'm currently, as I mentioned to you before we started recording, listening to the book on Audible. So I haven't gotten through the whole book yet. But what can anyone or an entrepreneur or somebody considering going into business, somebody already in business, practically get out of the book around those 4 S's to, I guess, self-reflect and implement that to have better success in their business?
Yeah, I can't stress it enough that the entrepreneur, or anybody in a business, or anybody in the leadership position, is able to synthesize, articulate, and manage strategy. Strategy is something that really seems to be lost on a lot of entrepreneurs. You have an objective and you have many tactics, but you have nothing in between. I think of some people that I've helped get their business going, and they are so busy trying to meet the objective of putting a certain amount of money in the bank account, or being able to book a certain amount of revenue over a given period of time. And they have all these tactics like cold calling or investigate, but there is no strategy. There is no infrastructure being built. The strategy is what creates the structure in a company that gives it value. It's what manages the workforce. It is what culture is built around. It is the thing that connects a business to a company. A business is just a bunch of operations in motion. A company is an enterprise with a lot of people living, breathing, thinking, creating people, bringing it all to life. And there's a strategy that connects that. So when I talk, now there's many different strategies people can choose for sure. And my 4S strategy is just one. But the point is, you need to have a strategy. First, make sure you understand what a strategy is. There's a saying, a quote I like to repeat by a General Shu, who had said that tactics without a strategy is simply the noise before defeat. And strategy without tactics is the longest path to success. And that's absolutely true. You can get by without strategy, and maybe you could, but you are going to take forever to get there. And I'm surprised that a lot of people don't know what strategy is. And there are a lot of people also that call themselves strategists and selling these strategy workshops. What they don't know what strategy is. If it doesn't connect the objective to the tactic, it's not a strategy. And that's what I attempt to do in the 4S's.
What about vision and its role it plays in strategy?
Now, vision is you. If you didn't have a vision, if you didn't have a desire, if you didn't have a need, you wouldn't have started a company in the first place. You probably would have been satisfied, could be quite successful just working for another company, and there is nothing wrong with that. That's, and it's almost, you have to be a little crazy to be an entrepreneur, but the vision is something that pulls you forward. And when I say the entrepreneur should first ask themselves, why do I want to go in the business? The answer is because I want to achieve that vision. What is the vision? What is driving you towards the vision? These are the sellability traits that I'm talking about as well, because these are the things that are going to sustain you when there's no money and there's no hope. The vision, the drive to reach that vision means everything in the world. How do you reach that vision? Does it just come to you? Do you just walk? No, it's strategy, right? That gets you. You have to have a strategy to give yourself an advantage to achieve the vision. But it starts with the vision, correct? And the vision is something that takes shape that we call an objective. And then once you have defined the objective, you say, how am I going to get there? Certain objectives and strategies are really easy to get to. Others, not so much. If I can give you an example, prize fighter goes in, knows that he's outmatched. The person that he's up against is stronger, faster, and as far as everybody can see, is completely unbeatable. So the underdog comes in. What's his objective? His vision is to be the heavyweight champion of the world. It's to win the fight. What is strategy? The strategy is, well, he's stronger, so I'm not going to beat him with strength. He's faster, so I'm not going to beat him with speed. What advantages do I have? Well, this person is bigger. He tires out easy. He gets mad and starts throwing punches and start wasting energy. I have far more endurance. You can put me up against the ropes and hit me all day, and I'll take it. And I'll tire him out. My strategy is I'm going to get him upset. I am going to tire him out. And once I have him exhausted, I'll come down on him. That's your strategy. You haven't even entered the ring yet. Now that you enter the ring, that's when tactics take over. You come in, you start throwing a right hook and aiming for this person's face. That gets them upset. So they start throwing punches. They get you up against the rope. They're throwing their anger and energy and their emotion is start to drain on them until finally comes the fifth round. And this actually happened between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman. George Foreman came out exhausted in the fifth round. Everybody had been betting on Foreman and say that Ali, there was no way on this planet he was going to come back, that he was ever going to win this fight because he was outmatched. And guess what happened? Ali knocked him out in the 8th round, right? And it's because he had the objective that everyone had, right, to win the fight, but he had a strategy, which he knew, which smart, and then the tactics. The strategy, which took place outside the ring, as Ali said, he's always won the fight outside the ring. And this is why I say to entrepreneurs, you have a vision. That's great. and you have tactics. But if you don't have a strategy, you're always in the ring fighting, but you're always getting pounded down. The strategy is the thing that ensures that you're going to reach that vision successfully before you start beating yourself senselessly out of the ring. That's something you need to educate yourself to, because I don't think a lot of people understand the connection of strategy, or what strategy actually is. And I come from saying that from experience, because it wasn't until I was about 5 or 6 years in that I understood what strategy was and how to employ it. So strategy and vision, yes.
Great
Those
point.
are the two important elements to get you to success.
Anybody with a vision that's itching to go into business, do you think anybody that has a vision and has a skill set for, let's say, like you were an engineer working for this other company before you left and started on your own, do you think anybody can become an entrepreneur, or are there certain traits that will allow some people and other traits that may be lacking that will hold others back? What's your thoughts on, on
Some
that?
people are going to be successful and some are not. And that doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur, or you're working for somebody else. You're going to have to find your place in the world. That's all there is to it. Are there certain traits that give entrepreneurs advantages? Yes. Do you have to have these traits? No. Can anybody be an entrepreneur? Yes. Can anybody be a pianist or a painter, or a tightrope walker? If you apply yourself, yes. And some might find it more
And you
difficult
have
than
all
others.
your fingers, or at least
It,
most
it
of
helps, but
them.
I've heard of one handed pianist as well. The thing is, it depends on how you apply yourself. The thing about entrepreneurs is they tend to be risk takers. They also tend to be free thinkers, and they are not afraid to move and plow ahead without knowing exactly what the structure is or the pathway to get there. They're willing to lay it down and figure it out, and as the path develops, understand it, realize it, and follow it. Many of them will fly by the seat of their pants in the early days, and it's only natural. But the real successful ones get past that. If anybody was to come to me and say, and to give me the qualities, and I say, no, you don't want to be an entrepreneur? No, because if somebody's thinking about it, I'm more interested in exploring why. Why are you thinking about this? Why are you thinking about the path of starting your own business? Why are you contemplating this? Because that answer is the very answer, has a lot more, I think, insight into what their success is going to be. If they say, I simply hate my boss, that's not a good. I want to earn more money. No. But if I hear something like, look, I have these creative ideas, and I want to pursue them with unbridled passion, and it's something that's just itching at me. I have these products I want to develop, and I want to bring them to the world. I want to see the satisfaction. And if I hear that kind of passion, and I don't hear people talk about millions of dollars or other things, and maybe they come, maybe they not. But if those aren't the things that are driving the passion to provide or create or to produce something is driving them, I said, okay, this is a person with an entrepreneurial spirit. Let's see how we make that work. Can it be anybody? Yes. I've seen kids 10, 12 years old. I was one of them who used to sell corn on the side of the road, and other vegetables that we picked from the garden. That's an entrepreneur. I mean, that's a low risk business, but still, you're out there doing it, and rather than begging for money or working as delivering a newspaper, and all of those things, I would say, are great for any kid that is doing that at that age. You're off to a really good start. If you're interested in earning a buck, when you're still a teenager or earlier, you're probably looking at somebody who's already developed the entrepreneurial itch to get them going. But that's kind of a long-winded answer. Anybody can be an entrepreneur. Not everybody is going to succeed. There are certain character traits that are going to give you an advantage, but not having them or having some other traits, it could be an advantage or a disadvantage. It depends on your willingness to use them. But as you said it before, it's the vision. and what pulls you to that vision, if you have a passion to achieve that vision, that is what's going to help you more than anything else. If you don't have a sense for a business or a sense for the technology, and you can bring people in, you can still succeed. But you as the entrepreneur have to have the vision, the passion to go after it. I think those are the two main ingredients.
So I talk a lot in my videos and articles about leadership and team development. So I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions around that. You know, I always say companies have two types of problems: systems problems and people problems. And if your people aren't working well together, or you don't have the right people, you can't fix your systems problems because they're going to keep bouncing back. So how do you manage or lead people in order for them to want to work and give their best and work well with others as a team? Do you have
Good question.
some advice?
In my book, I have an entire chapter called Cultivating Culture that addresses that very problem.
Okay.
It's the thing is, understanding culture is a complicated thing, because you have so many people with so many different thoughts, but you can tell the difference between a happy, energetic company all moving in a same unified direction as opposed to one that's chaotic, a lot of grumbling, unhappy people, sniping, gossiping, and that kind of thing. It takes one bad leader or one bad apple, one bad anything, right, to do that. A good leader, though, and you need to have a good manager and a good leader in this position, somebody that's going to foster a good culture. The first thing, you need a person who cares. They don't act like they care. They don't go through the motions of caring. They actually care about each individual, their issues and their problems. They realize are important because those problems are now inherited by the company. And for the company to succeed, people need to be happy and working together. Listen. Sometimes they have legitimate complaints, and sometimes they just don't like Joe because, you know, Joe wears striped pants, you know, whatever. And so you have to figure out how to deal with these things. And sometimes you simply have people that just can't conform to the code of ethics of the company, and you're stuck with it. It's a really complicated question. The thing about systems, as you put, it's the important thing about systems or processes, they have to be easy to understand, they have to be successful, and they have to be both scalable and transportable, meaning that if you have a system in place for manufacturing products, if you switch to another product, that system, if it's solid and it's stable, it should still work. If you separate and move a different team members onto that system, it should still be successful if it is a cogent and stable system. What you do not want, though, is the system should not run the company, right? The company runs the system. If somebody comes in and said, oh, I can't do this because the computer says this, so I have to do it this way. No. We do it the way that is correct, and we make sure that the computer program, or we make sure that the system or whatever it is that we're dealing with conforms to our common sense and logical way of doing things. So if you don't have systems in place that conflict with the people, and if you don't have people that conflict with the systems, that's a really good start. But I think you use the word leadership in there, or management. That's key. You need a leadership you need that cares. You need leadership that people are willing to follow, and you have leadership that is in the persona of people that are listening and listening carefully. Why do people follow a leader? One, they know that the leader has their best interest in mind. Two, not only does he have their best interest in mind, he has or she has a objective that is worth following and that they can articulate to the team. The third is that that leader has a plan, a strategy, a path for getting there. So if somebody comes and say, I want to do this thing, and this thing is appealing to you, and you know how to get there, I'm in. Now, tomorrow, somebody else on the team could become the leader because they have the vision. That's fine. But the thing is, it's the process and the system that we have in place that allows the leaders to be successful and make others willing to follow that leader. So together, it's harmony, it's caring.
So is that what you look for when promoting somebody to a leadership role, is their ability to care, communicate, lead? Do you assess people to determine
Yes,
their
again,
compatibility with the leader?
That's exactly right, because you could put anything down on paper. Everybody on paper is a great communicator. If the one flaw everybody puts down is they care too much, right? I mean, that's that's all two-dimensional interesting things, but we really, you need a three-dimensional sit down with that person, and you have to find out if they have the intellectual wherewithal to be a good leader, if they really care, and if they possess the character traits, especially scalability and sensibility, if they want to be a good leader. Salability means that you add value in every transaction. When you and I are having this transaction and having discussion, we're having it because we each believe that the other has value, to make this time worthwhile for us. And that's what you want in a leader. Somebody who brings value to the equation, somebody who has salability that others are willing to follow. So yes, right away in talking to somebody, instantly, if you like that person, if you're going to want to transact with them, if you would be willing to follow them. And it's not necessarily by anything you write down, anything that you say. It's body language. It's things that are so hard to boil, but you really have a good sense that this is the person that is charismatic, with good character, that I can trust, and that I want to trust and will trust me. And together, we will succeed. They just exude that kind of persona. So yeah, you want to look at the individual as a human being to determine what sort of leader that they are, because you'll never find it on paper.
Great. Charles, is there a question I should have asked you that I didn't, that you'd like to bring up and answer?
A question that yes. And here is the question. What I would like readers to do more than anything else? Reviews, Amazon reviews, the most important thing to an author in the world.
Well, they got to buy your book first. Yeah.
They are so hard to get. Yeah, it's only $1.99 on Kindle. I mean, and 30 seconds to check a star. And the reason is important, and I'm sorry to give this infomercial right now.
That's fine.
But it's a little bit frustrating that 30 seconds of a person's life means all the difference to a person like me, because if I was to get up to 100 reviews, Amazon starts taking notice and will help to advertise my book. And it's a lot. And then I can really enjoy these podcasts and not have to beg people to purchase the book and to give it and to give it stars. But no, aside from that, all joking aside, no, you did a really good job. You asked the important questions, and if you have any additional questions for me, just go to my website, charlesmccarrick.com. I blog there. Anybody who sends me a comment or a question, I always answer it back. And I enjoy what I'm doing. This is a lot of fun, and anytime I can help anybody, entrepreneur or otherwise, I'm happy to do so.
Fantastic. So I'll put links to the book and also to Charles's website. If you want to ask him a question, you can do so through there. And yeah, fantastic. Well, I love meeting entrepreneurs, especially those that have gone through this journey that you have been through. I understand you're also an avid fisherman.
That's right.
Now I found out you sew. Did the sewing come from fishing?
Oh yes, I love to fish, especially offshore fishing. Now I've got for offshore trolling and bottom fishing, but any kind of fishing, I love.
Okay, and you're in Florida, I believe, right now.
That's correct, Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah. Well, Charles, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time. And for those here for the first time, I invite you to subscribe to my channel to get news of new videos and turn on notifications so you're aware of when videos get published. I also have articles We'll have a lot of videos and articles that go along with them on tips on leadership, team development, employee performance, hiring and selection. So those are all components of running a successful business. Check those out. Thank you all for listening, and we'll talk again soon.